Hello, peeps. This is K Steps, and I'm back. And I just had to. I had to do it. I couldn't help myself. I just had to come and talk to you guys and release this because I am deeply, deeply, deeply disturbed and I am deeply disgusted. We talked last night about Amber Guyger, the police officer, the ex Dallas police officer, who was found guilty for murdering Botham Jean. We found, yesterday they brought down the verdict of guilty. And I said yesterday, we're going to stay calm. We're not going to release all of that celebratory energy, celebrating because she was simply convicted. Because, as we said yesterday, a conviction doesn't mean a whole lot. It's the sentencing, it's the punishment for your crime that really matters. And somehow, I told you to watch that judge. I told you to watch the judge. I had no idea that they had other characters and that they were going to play out this whole script in the courtroom for the jury before sentencing, and that the brother was actually going to play a part in this. That Botham Jean's brother was actually going to play a part in this. I knew nothing of that, but I told you to watch the judge, and there are just no words. There are no words for except for disgusting and disturbing. There are just no other words. I've never seen a judge act like this in a courtroom. I've never seen a deputy sheriff or a bailiff or whatever act like this in a courtroom. I've never seen this before, and it was absolutely ridiculous. And I'm not going to post any clips. I'm not going to post any pictures of it. I'm sure most of you have seen it. If you haven't seen it, all you have to do is Google Amber Guyger's sentencing, and these pictures will come up. Pictures of a black deputy sheriff stroking her hair. Pictures of the judge hugging her. Pictures of Botham's brother hugging her and asking the judge could he come down off the stand to hug her, with this whole long dragged out forgiveness speech and all of this about, he hopes she finds Christ and all. See, this is before I go into that, let me deal with this. This is the thing that I need black people to understand. I need black people to understand this. Understand that we don't have some kind of corner market on Christianity. Christianity is not ours. Christianity is a made-up religion that was sold to us. Now, it takes elements of our ancient spiritual system. It takes elements from ancient Kemet in Egypt, ancient Kemet. It takes elements from that, and it creates this false picture, and it's called Christianity. Jesus, as he's described in the New Testament, never existed. He never existed. And even if you don't want to buy that, okay, the same Bible we read is the Bible that white folks read. The Klan members that were hanging black men and black women and in some cases black children from trees and burning them and mutilating them and cutting black pregnant women's bellies open and pulling their babies out of them and all that. Those same Klan members were Christians. They were Christians. Why do you think that they burned a cross? They were Christians. So, for this young man to somehow think he was doing something by talking about forgiving her and she needs to find God and all that. What God is she going to find? The white God that she created to fool you into going through this whole spiel after she was on the stand and admitted that she intentionally She had every intention of killing your brother in his own home when he wasn't bothering anybody. I mean, it was so disturbing and I mean, the reason why, and I'll tell you the reason why it is so disturbing. The reason why it's so disturbing is because, for once, we had a jury that saw through all the BS, saw through all the bullshit, saw through all the smoke and mirrors, and did exactly what they were supposed to do. And that was find this woman guilty of murder. The judge had already thrown out so many other options, trying to give the jury a way out, manslaughter, remember the castle doctrine. She threw that out there at the 11th hour, just to give them a way out. And they refused that way out. They saw it clearly for what it was. And we got the guilty verdict. But when you got black deputy sheriffs stroking this woman's hair and placing her hair and stroking her hair, this cold-blooded murderer, this woman who through the text messages and all this kind of stuff that they brought out in court, her racist tendencies and all of that were put out there on display. We got this black woman stroking her hair and consoling her and all of that. Then we got this brother talking about forgiveness and can I come down and hug her and all of this. And and we got the judge sitting up while this phony hug was going on, say she wiping, dabbing her eyes, wiping tears. Then we got the judge coming down off the bench to embrace a murderer, to embrace somebody who just the day before was convicted of murder. A woman who walked into somebody else's home while they were there not bothering anybody, sitting in their house eating ice cream, and put 2 bullets in this man's heart and didn't bother to try to perform any kind of CPR, any kind of first aid. Her first response was not to call the ambulance. Her first response was to text her lover and other members of the police department. But black folks, black people were in the courtroom treating this woman like she was a victim, like she had been wronged, like it was wrong for her to even be in there defending herself and defending her actions. Like it was wrong that this guilty verdict came down. We got black folk doing this. These black puppets, these black faces of white supremacy. And the reason why it's so disgusting is because this is what the media they're plastering it everywhere. Yesterday, all you got was a little cursory, she's been found guilty, a little something here, a little something there, not a whole lot from mainstream media. These pictures of black bailiffs stroking hair and black judges hugging Amber Guyger and the brother hugging her, they are all over everywhere. And do you know the message that it sends to America? Well, this is the message that it sends. Well, other black people don't seem to be, too disturbed. Other black people don't seem, they're actually very sympathetic towards Amber, and they're actually very forgiving, and they don't seem to think that, maybe they don't seem to believe that she should actually be there, and that she should have actually, been found guilty, and that, she should have, I mean, the brother even actually said that he didn't, as far as he was concerned, he didn't believe she should go to jail. What kind of foolishness is this? What kind of foolishness is this? Forgiveness has nothing to do with somebody committing a crime and paying for their crime. Forgiveness is way over here on this side of that. The two have absolutely nothing to do with each other. You can forgive somebody for wronging you. You can forgive somebody for doing something that harmed you. You can forgive them if that's your choice, if that's what you choose to do. But you forgiving them has absolutely nothing to do with them being punished for committing a crime. Because they didn't just commit that crime against you. They committed that crime against society. We as a whole, they committed that crime against us, not just you. So if you want to forgive them on your own time. Forgive them on your private time. Forgive them, go somewhere and meet with them privately. Or once they go to prison and visit them and tell them you forgive them. Or write them a letter and tell them you forgive them or whatever. But don't make a public show of acting like what she did was okay. It's not okay. It's not okay to use your badge, to use the power that has been given to you by the public, by the taxpayers, by the American citizens, to gun people down and kill people and then lie about it. And it's not okay for you to make it appear like what she did was okay. Forgive her all you want to, but don't forgive her on our time. And don't make it seem like your forgiveness makes her or anyone else exempt from doing the time for the crime. 10 years. 10 years. She was sentenced to 10 years. You see why? When you got all these black folk in the courtroom caping for her. You got all these black folk in the courtroom acting like, she's the victim. When you got all these folks in the courtroom, turning this into something emotional. This is not emotional. It was cut and dry. It's the law. Do you think for 1 minute that if all these emotions, do you think for 1 minute that a white judge, would have allowed all of this type of emotional bullshit to go on in a courtroom if there was a black man or a black woman sitting in that seat and not a white woman? It just shows how very unprofessional this judge was allowed to be and how willing she was to sacrifice whatever to play her role as a puppet for white supremacy. Oh yeah, she came off the stand and she went to the family first, and did all of that hugging and all that long dragged out talking and all of that. And we got all of these people doing commentary and we got all of these, people in newsrooms and news reporters talking about they'd never seen anything like this before and how amazing it was and how extraordinary it was and how emotional it was and all that. Why? Because all of that theater was meant to do what? Move the jury. And that's what it did. A jury that was ready to give her the max. Because had they not been ready to give her the max, they probably would not have found her guilty in the first place. So they were ready to take it there. They felt like she needed to be found guilty because she was guilty. By her own admission, she intended to kill him. So they were ready to take it all the way. But when you got the brother up there talking about forgiveness and we don't even want you to go to jail, and can I get a hug? And you got, black sheriff's deputy stroking hair and all of this, like she, like Miss Silly, let Miss Ann, we're gonna take care of you. You Miss Ann, don't worry about it. Miss Ann, let me fix your hair for you, Miss Ann. You know what I'm saying? When we got all of that going on, and this is what the jury is seeing. So in the jury's mind, okay, well, if the family doesn't want this woman to go to jail, if the family does not want us to go hard for them, if the family does not want us to go hard for their deceased relative, your son, your brother, if the family doesn't want it, then, So this is what America now sees. Now America sees black folk embracing and forgiving again another white police officer that took an unarmed black person's life, intentionally committing murder, and we just embracing them, and we embracing them, and we forgiving them, and we stroking them, and we treating them like they're the victims and all that. So it sends the message that maybe, just maybe, white police officers killing unarmed black folk, especially unarmed black men, ain't as bad as some other folks think it is, or some other folks say it is. Maybe it's all right with black America. You got judges coming down off of benches hugging murderers. When have you ever known a judge to come off the bench to hug, to embrace, to console, to comfort a murderer? Somebody who has just been found guilty of murder. Told you to watch that judge. This whole thing was planned. The whole thing was staged. The way this black deputy sheriff woman just came up out of nowhere. Just out of nowhere. She just popped up out of nowhere and just starts stroking Amber's hair. Come on now. They turned this into a circus. So what justice could have been gotten, they derailed it, and they turned it into an emotional mess, because that's what this turned out to be, an emotional mess. You got judges dabbing. You got a judge with tissue dabbing at her eyes like she's so emotional just because this black man says, I want to forgive you and I want to hug you and all of that. For what? You didn't need to put on all that display to forgive her. It didn't take all of that for you to forgive her. Forgiveness is a personal, private thing. Forgiveness is not something that the whole world has to see or that the whole world has to know. And that's how you disrespected your brother's memory. That's how you disrespected your brother. By putting on all this public display, and the rest of your family, because your mother and your father were there in the courtroom. This is how you disrespect. This is how you trivialize not only the loss of his life, but how he lost his life and how senseless it was for this young man to even be dead. So this is how you take it and make it so trivial. This very sham that they put on in this courtroom could very possibly have set black people back because now that's just how some folks, non-white folks in the dominant society, that's exactly how they're going to look at it. Oh, well, it must not be too bad. They stroking her hand, hugging her and forgiving her and, and loving on her and embracing her and all of that, and she done been found guilty of murder. I mean, don't sit on the stand herself and admitted that she had every intention of killing this man. So it must not be too bad. Bam, bam. So it's disgusting. It's disgusting. The traitors among us. Just like I was watching 1804 today again. And y'all need to get the movie 1804. The hidden history of Haiti. It's about the Haitian Revolution. And it talked about Mackendal. Mackendal was the first to start the process. He was the first to sow the seeds of Revolution. And he was a slave who had escaped and and was up in the mountains. And he would come down, and every evening he would come down and he would teach and he would talk with the others, the slaves. And he was the first to teach them about plants and ecology and nature. And he actually taught the slaves how to use certain plants and herbs to poison the slave masters. And Macandale's plan was this. He understood that as long as there were black collaborators, which means black people that were willing to work with the white supremacists, black folks that were willing to work with and work for the slave masters and the plantation owners and all this. He understood that as long as they were there in the middle, nothing ever would really get done as far as the revolution, as far as the uprising was concerned, as far as getting this freedom that they were all determined that they were going to have. So before he ever started poisoning the actual slave masters, the actual slave owners, the actual oppressors, before he ever started poisoning them, he started to poison the collaborators because he knew that they were going to have to get rid of the collaborators. We might not have to poison them. We're not going to have to kill them. But we're going to have to get rid of the collaborators. We're going to have to weed them out. We're going to have to point them out. We're going to have to call them out. We're going to have to stay on them. Because in all actuality and in all honesty, the collaborators, the black collaborators, the black faces of white supremacy, these black puppets that they put out in front of us to try to fool us and to try to trick us into believing that, everything is okay. And, there's some black people involved, so it can't be about race. Those black folks, they do us more harm than white supremacy does. And that courtroom today was full of black collaborators, was full of white supremacists with black faces. Black folk who done sold out for whatever reason. And they're willing to sacrifice their own to uphold the white agenda. Go look up Judge Tammy Kemp. Go look her up. And go see who she's connected to. Go see who she's connected with. And once you see who she's connected to and who she's connected with, who she's friends with, who she was in a sorority with, Judge Tammy Kemp, K-E-M-P, Kemp. Judge Tammy Kemp, once you look her up and you see who she's connected to and who she's linked up with, you'll know where her loyalties lie. And they certainly did not lie with black people, with black justice. Now maybe the brother is so big and so heavy on this whole Christian kick, and this whole religious kick, to maybe that's the reason why he did what he did. My problem with that is, okay, you could have had your private forgiving moment. Like I said, once she was sentenced and it was done and said and over with, you could have mailed a letter to the prison and let her know we forgive you. But this public stage was not the place for that. You should have been thinking about justice, not can I get a hug. You should have been thinking about justice for your innocent brother and all the other innocent brothers and sisters who followed that same path that your brother did. dying at the hands of a white police officer, a racist white police officer, for no reason. That's where your thinking should have been. Not on forgiveness, not on can I get a hug from a murderer. From a woman whose hands are covered with your family blood. Black people, we got to do better. We have got to do better. This worship of white folk, this psychology of being willing to sacrifice and do whatever, just so you can get some acceptance from them, or just so you can get a smile from them, or just so you can get a pat on the back from them, or just so you can get a hug from them, or whatever. We have got to do better. We have got to do better, and we have got to stop thinking about ourselves. And we have got to think about the group as a whole, the collective. And we have got to stop and we have got to think, how are my actions going to affect my group? Not just me, but how are my actions going to affect my group? How are my actions going to affect my whole entire family? Because not only, like I said, not only was it a very disturbing, very disgusting display, it was a display that we definitely did not need right now. If it shows one thing, it shows that there are a lot of black people that are not on code. There are a lot of black people that are still lost, and they need to be reached. Because from what I can see, I don't know about every black person that was in that courtroom, but those 3 black people in that courtroom are definitely lost. They don't know who they are. Because if they knew who they were, they never would have even thought about being a part of that whole display. And to disrespect this young man who lost his life for nothing by treating her like she's the victim, by treating her like her being there was wrong, her being in that position was wrong. Treating her like she needed some sympathy. What she needs sympathy for? I mean, that was just disrespectful, not only to, like I said, what had happened to Botham Jean, but it's disrespectful to the same thing that has happened to so many other black men and women. It was just disrespectful. The black deputy sheriff or whoever she is, she needs to lose her job. The judge needs to lose her seat on the bench because it was very unprofessional. And yes, just like some of these news reporters and people in these newsrooms were saying, yeah, it was incredible. It's something I've never seen before. I've never seen a judge allow that kind of mess to go on in a courtroom and then participate in it. So she needs to lose her seat on the bench. And I don't know what to say about the brother. The brother just needs to wake up. The brother needs to wake up and smell the coffee. The coffee pot is burning. He needs to wake up and smell it. Because if you have that much kindness in your heart, that's fine. That's fine. But that was not the moment for that. That was the moment to let his brother be honored. That was the moment to let the system work like it was supposed to for the first time. Now we'll never know what might have happened if they hadn't put on this little show for the jury. Now you got to remember, the jury was seeing all of this. Now the jury didn't actually see the part where the judge comes and hugs her. That was after the sentencing. But the brother with all this forgiveness and can I get a hug and me and my family don't even want you to go to jail and all of this mess. And this black police officer stroking her hair and all of this, the jury saw all of that. So because the jury saw that, we have no clue what this jury would have done had they not been exposed to this mockery, to this foolishness. We have no idea what they would have done. We don't know whether they would have still come down with the same 10-year sentence or whether it would have been a harsher sentence. A sentence that's more in line with the crime that was committed. The crime that she was convicted of, murder. You look up some of the murder sentences for some black men in Texas. That were convicted of the same thing she was convicted of. And I guarantee you won't find one that's under 25 years to life. So that's just what I wanted to come. Like I said, I was so disturbed and I'm so disgusted that I'm not even going to include any of the pictures in this video. Like I said, if you want to see this mess, you can easily go to Google and Google it. It's all over everywhere. Of course, they gave mainstream media just the pictures that they would need to lessen the blow of her even being found guilty. Because nobody was really even expecting her to be found guilty, especially not guilty of murder. Maybe manslaughter, but certainly not murder. A white police officer, a black man, a white female police officer, and a black man. So these black collaborators, I'll be nice. These black collaborators gave white mainstream media just what they needed to lessen the blow of her even being found guilty. I don't even want to see the pictures I don't want to see them too many more times, because every time I look at it, I get disgusted and I get disturbed, because I know what it really means. And I know the image that's really being projected. I know the message that's really being sent. They'll use these black puppets like they speak for all black Americans to say that, well, maybe us black Americans don't really think it's all that bad. Maybe us black Americans, don't really think that, white police officers killing unarmed black men is really that big a deal, or really that much of a crime, and we can have so much sympathy for a white police officer that went in somebody else's home and gunned them down for no reason. That's the message that it sends. That's the dangerous thing. That's the dangerous thing about collaborators, about black collaborators. That's the dangerous thing about these black folks walking around supporting and helping white supremacy, is the message that it sends. But they don't speak for us. They don't speak for us. They don't speak for us. Amber Guyger should have got no less than life. Certainly no less than 25 years to life. Especially once she got on the stand and in her own words admitted that she had every intention of killing this young man. Every police officer, every white police officer that guns down an unarmed black person And we know that race is behind it. Every last one of them not only need to be charged, they need to be found guilty, and they need to have the book thrown at them because it's murder. And they need to face the same harsh punishments and the same harsh sentences that all those black men that are sitting in prison now have to face. There are people that have got nonviolent drug charges. They got more time than this woman. Nonviolent drug charges. They didn't assault anybody. They didn't beat up anybody. They didn't shoot at anybody. They didn't shoot anybody. They didn't kill anybody. They didn't harm anybody. Nonviolent crimes. The most of them drug charges. 25 years, 30 years, life for drugs. Not taking somebody's life, but for drugs. And I'm not always talking about the heavy duty drugs, like crack. I'm not talking. It's some there for weed, marijuana. 15, 20, 25, 30 years. And this woman walks away with 10 years. Why? Because the black faces of white supremacy were on their job. They were on their job. They knew they had to do something. White supremacy was already shook up about the fact that she had been found guilty of murder in the first place. Even after the judge tried to slip that castle doctrine thing in at the 11th and a half hour. The jury totally disregarded that and still found her guilty of murder. So her puppet masters, the puppet masters let them know, y'all got to do something in this courtroom today. Something has got to be done because this jury is not playing. And at this point, yes, I would be willing to believe that even the brother was a part of it. That even the family sold out. Botham is dead now. There's nothing that can be done to bring him back. So it's very, very possible that the family sold out or that the family was advised to be a part of this whole charade. $10 years. I want you to think about that. 10 years. And some of you that are listening to me have family members that are doing or have done more time than that in jail behind a nonviolent crime. Something drug related. 10 years for murder. 10 years for taking a life. With the possibility that you might be out, what, in 5? Slap on the wrist. But I told you yesterday. We couldn't celebrate. As much as we may have wanted to celebrate, as much as we may have wanted to think, okay, well, maybe things are finally starting to change. Just like I said, we can't stop now. We can't relax. We can't take a breath of a sigh of relief. We gotta see this thing through. We gotta see how it's gonna play out, and this is how it played out. With the help of these black puppets, this is how it played out. 10 years for murder.